Hi guys, welcome back to Wardle Road, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how I weather vehicles. I'm also going to have a go at weathering this pile of, well, it's a resin made pile of scrap rubbish, and also I'm going to be showing you how I add graffiti to coaches. And on the topic of coaches, as you'll see on the top here, it says MRCCT, which is Model Railway Community Coach Tour, and this was organised by John McCarthy, so a shout out to him. Basically, it's a coach. It's been done a few times, I think, by other people on social media, but he decided it would be a good idea to get another one going and no harm in it. So it's going to be, he sent it to me and I've started weathering it and logoing it all up. So it's going to start here at Wardle Road. I'm going to chuck a couple of shots in of it at the end. And all you've got to do is go onto the Facebook group. I'll leave a link for that in the description below. And you can get this sent to you and send it around your layout. You post the footage of it in the group. And yeah, we're going to see how far we can get this to go. We're going to be possibly at the Stafford MRYCG meet and greet on the 2nd of February. So I'll post a picture of the information up that now on the screen. And also, I found it out and sent out quite a few of these. But if you see me there, you can come grab one of these if you're into collecting them. Or if not, I've still got a few left to send out. So my contact email will be in the description. And what other video? I'm also going to start doing a series where I go around viewing people's layouts and talking to them about their layouts and the history of modelling and what got them into the hobby. So I'm going to start with a few people that I've been speaking to. I've got some quite big layouts to go and see as well, so I'm really looking forward to that. So if that's something you want to see, subscribe to the channel and you turn the notifications on, and then you can be notified every time I upload. So all that's left to do is get into the video. Right, so we're over the workbench area now, and as you can see in front of me, I've got a sheet of graffiti, the car, the coach, and the resin wheels that are going to be weathered. As you can see here, here's one, as Blue Peter say, here's one I did earlier. And this is of the Network Rail van, which I weathered and then carved into the back clean me. Have to keep it PG for exhibition's sake. So I'll show you how I did that as well. But first things first, I think we're going to start with the graffiti. Well, I'm using the Scale Model Scenery graffiti collection here. And I've started cutting out the two pieces of graffiti that I'm going to want to use on the MRCCT coach. And first of all, you're going to decide exactly where you want them. So for this, I'm thinking maybe one in the corner up here and one along the bottom just here, just to mix it up a little bit. You don't want them all neatly, as it is graffiti, you don't want them all neatly in the same place. But one thing you're going to want to do is try and cut as closely as you can to the letter. So now I've chosen the two places I want the graffiti to go. I'm going to start by grabbing the graffiti. I'm going to do them one at a time so I don't mess this up. And you're just going to want to submerge the letters in the water until you start to notice the paper and the top of the graffiti moving away from each other. So as you can see here, we might not be able to see it too well on the camera, but that graffiti is starting to come away now. So I'm going to use my pair of tweezers to remove it out of the water, shake off any excess water there, and I'm just going to slide as carefully as I can the graffiti from the paper to the coach, like so. I'm going to grab a tissue, just a small bit of tissue, rip that off there, and you're going to want to gently press down on the graffiti. You don't want to drag the graffiti too much because, as you see there, just by the slightest bit of movement it starts to drag it away from where it needs to go. But you just want to try and soak up the rest of the water, like so. I'm going to push down a little bit just to make sure it's stuck well. Once we've gone over and weathered this as well, this should look really, really nice. So there is one piece of graffiti added. So let's get on with the next one. Definitely looks like someone's had a go at that with a graffiti can. I'm just going to finish this section off now by leaving you with a time lapse of me adding one more piece of graffiti to this side, and then we'll get over to some weathering. Right, so now I've let them dry for a while. I'm extremely pleased with how they look. Right, so I've let them dry for a while now, and I'm extremely pleased with how they look. But of course, they look a little bit too clean, so I'm going to have to weather them down slightly. I'm also going to start weathering this and this little Vauxhall Astra. So the base coat for this dark brown, is going to be the same dirt that I use on the coach. So when I'm spraying this, once I've done the base coat for this, I can then go over the bits of the coach that I want. And then for the Astra, I'm going to be adding a slightly lighter coloured dirt just around the edges, and then maybe have a go at scoring something in the side of it, much like what I did with this van. You can see weathered all over. So first things first is mixing up the paint. So I'm sure everyone knows how to mix up paint by now, but for this I'm going to be using Old Rust, and very simple, for every 3 squeezes of this bottle into the pot. So there were 6 squeezes in there. I'm then going to add 2 squeezes of acrylic thinner, and I found this to be the best ratio for airbrushing. So 2 squeezes of that in there. I'm going to get my little mixer. I'm just going to give that a good stir. Pour just a little bit of paint in to start with. No point filling the whole thing up, because you're probably not going to need it. And then just checking the colour, all the levels of intensity of the air, at all different pressures, just to make sure you're happy with it. And then let's get on to base coating this resin. Probably doesn't look too good because it's a little bit shiny on camera, but that's the first base coat of the resin pile of scrap metal. And as you can see, because there's so many little nooks and crannies in it, it's important to get a base layer, just so the initial base colour, if anything does come through, is going to be this dark rusty brown. So we'll let that dry on the side while we get to spraying the coach. So once again, I'm going to add a little bit more paint. I actually didn't even end up using all the paint on that resin thing, so it shows how little paint you need. But I'm just going to work out exactly where I want to. So I want a slightly thicker layer of dirt from the rusty axles, and then it get lighter as it goes up. Same on both sides. So we'll start the airbrush. And then we'll have a go at weathering this. So I want it on the lightest possible. It's always good to go back and check as well, especially if you're holding it manually rather than setting it to a certain level of spray, that you're still using the same level of spray. So that's both sides done there. And now we're going to let this dry while we do the car, and then we can come back afterwards and start using some weathering powders. So we'll put this to one side. Now it's time for the Vauxhall Astra. So for this I'm going to be using dust, and as you can see, if I put some on this paper towel here, more looks like it's been down some mud tracks, and over time that mud was dried and gone a much lighter colour. So I think this is going to look really nice on this little car. So I'll get to mixing that, and then we'll be back in a second with the airbrush. Right, so we're back with the airbrush. My paint is mixed. It's been a few minutes, so the coach has almost dried completely now. But as part of the coach tour, you have to put your initials on it every time it visits a new place. So obviously mine's going to be WR for Wardle Road. So I've got this stencil for a couple of quid off Amazon. They make them in all sorts of different sizes. So I've just used sellotape, I don't know if you can see it on the camera there, to mark out W and R, so that way when I spray over the top of it using this dust paint as well, it shouldn't have too much leakage onto any of the other letters. So we'll do that in a second, but first to the Vauxhall Astra. Again, tiny bit of paint. Make sure it's all mixed. Happy with the colour. Airbrush on. So we'll leave that for 2 seconds while I let it dry. And bring the coach in. I think I'm going to put my letters just on the end here. So yeah, we'll be able to fit both of them in. So we'll start with the W. So as you can see, just lightly there's the W done. I'm going to let that dry before I do the R, because obviously I don't want to come back and smudge the W. So we're going to put that aside again, and we're going to come back to the Vauxhall. This is all a bit over the place, but it's easier to do this than to keep mixing up lots and lots of different paints. So now we've got the car, which looks more like, I call it the camera, it looks like the colour of the car has faded from being out in the sun for years and years and years. But of course, if this car is being used regularly, you're not going to have the marks on the windows and the all the windows and the windscreen. So to prevent that, you can either put tape over it, which is a bit fiddly, or in this case, I'm just going to grab a cotton bud and some IPA. Get a little bit of that on the cotton bud, and then what you're going to want to do is just recreate where the wipers would go on the windscreen. So as you can see there in the light, where the wipers would just need to do a little bit bigger. You can see there the arch where the wipers would wipe the dirt away. And then of course the same thing on the back wiper. So we're going to do a half arch. Like so. So now this car looks a little bit mucky, and we're going to make it even more mucky with some weathering powder shortly. While the paint's still a little bit tacky, you want to get anything slightly sharp, and this is like a sharp pointer type thing, and wherever you want to write the writing, just gently, without scratching the paint, engrave what you want to have put on there. So as you can see there, obviously it's slightly different, not as visible on with brown dirt on a white van, but it still makes a good effect. You can see there, it says clean me. And you can do this, you can write this all over the place. As you see there, the white and the brown makes a much better combination. However, if you've seen people writing things on cars and stuff, anywhere with a bit of dirt is an opportunity to put something on it. So now we've done that, we're going to go over to our weathering powder. Right, so for the final part of this video, we're back with the pile of scrap metal, and I'm simply using light rust wash to pick out some of these wheels with a slight coating of rust. Of course, you don't want to do every single one because you want to vary the looks of all of them, because obviously none of them are going to be the same. And as you can see already, the different colours are starting to be easier to pick out. So that was the light rust wash. Now we're going to grab the track wash, which is a slightly darker rust wash. And same thing again, using the slightly darker tone to pick out some more wheels. And again, if I hold that up to the camera, you can see the different colours of rust. I think quite nicely there, so there's different ones, different grades of rust. Same again with the metal pigment. make a little pile of it next to where you're working, and you're just going to want to place a couple of blobs, a couple of bits of this pigment in, and then once you're happy with how much you placed in, just get the brush nice and clean and just gently spread out those bits of pigment. So we'll do another pile there, another one, little one down there, get some more in here maybe, and then again just brush it all in. We want to get those obvious different colours, because this wouldn't look right if it was all the same thing. So we're going to do a couple more spots of that, so we're going to grab a bunch of it on the paper, tap a little bit where you want some of it to fall off the brush, and there as well, and blend it into your paint. Now hold that up to the camera again. Starting to see a really nice contrast in colours now. We're going to keep going though, because not quite happy with it yet. We're now going to finish this off with a light wash of engine grime, which is this, if you can see it on the camera, this slightly dark concrete colour. And same again, going to find little nooks and crannies to add the colouring to, and then little drops of it here and there, really bring to life the scrap pile. Of course, if you're not happy with it, you just get your brush a little bit drier, and you can lift off some of the oil. So I'm just going to finish this up, and then I'll show you the final product. For the car, I'm going to do the inside of the arches, just to give it that dirty, grimy effect. Like so, and again that will dry clear. Well, it's not clear, but less shiny once that's done. Next, you're going to want to dry your brush and get the metal pigment, which is a powder, as you can see here. Now you don't want to put this on too heavy, because once it's on, you're going to have to wipe the whole surface off and all the paint and everything else you've done to remove it. So with this, I'm now going to go over the hubcaps, as well as the lower part of the front and rear bumper. I'm actually quite pleased with that, how it looks like someone's obviously not been taking care of their car. So let's get to the coach. For the coach with the metal pigment, again I'm going to do it along the bottom edge of the coach. It's good to vary it as well. You don't want to have a nice neat thin line of it. You want to really vary the different thicknesses of it as you go along. So as you can see down here, there's a slightly thicker bit. Quite hard to see in this light. And up the top here, there's slightly less of it. So I'm going to do that again on both sides. Now that coach is pretty much done. So I'm going to put him to one side to dry. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that video of me weathering with the powder and the airbrush and the graffiti application as well. The coach is now all complete and is ready to be sent off to its next location. I've got John's name on there already, and WR, which I went over again in black, on there now, and MRCCT on the top. Bit of graffiti on each side, lots of weathering. So it's ready to travel the country. If you want to be part of this, I'll leave a link in the description, as I mentioned earlier. Also, the exhibition in Stafford on the 2nd of February, there will be a link to the MRYCG Facebook group in the description as well. And I think that's about it for now. There'll be a couple more videos coming up. I can't tell you exactly where and when they will be, because I kind of just make them as I get on with the railway. But other than that, please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you in the next one.